if you're on my Twitter and YouTube, let me know if anything sounds off. Because usually I have my well, I guess I can put my headphones in because it doesn't matter. But I want you guys to be able to hear what's going on. What's up, Desert Sauce? What's up, brother? I still haven't ordered any sauce from you. I need to get some. But yeah, if you guys are in here real quick, if you're into hot sauce and stuff, High Desert Sauce, he's always supporting me. But small business, if you're interested in supporting small businesses. All right. So we got 175 people in here, 181 already. All right, we got 10 whole people here on TikTok. But hey guys, so if you're just tuning in here, we have the hush money trial. The verdict has come back. Oh, I don't like that one for this. Let's switch it. Yeah, you don't want to see my big ugly face. All right. So here you see we have live updates. Jury reaches verdict in Trump trial. Also going to pull up Twitter because sometimes I actually get stuff faster there. Let's refresh it. The jury will present its verdict soon. Here's the latest. Jurors have reached a verdict in the criminal trial of Donald J. Trump, who faces 34 felony counts of falsifying business records in connection with a hush money payment made to Stormy Daniels in the days before the 2016 election. The judge in the case, Juan Merchant, said shortly after 4:30 p.m. Eastern that the jury had requested a half hour to fill out the forms. So that would be 5 o'clock their time, so that's coming up in 6 minutes. So they have 6 more minutes, supposedly, to fill out the forms. So we should probably be hearing a verdict, I would think, by 6 p.m. East Coast, which will be 3 p.m. Pacific. So I definitely think we're going to hear the verdict today. Sounds like it. Wow. It's finally here, guys. Whatever the verdict is, at least we're going to know, right? At least it's going to be done. You know, at least the circus is going to be stopped. I don't know. But guys, if you're on all my other channels, hey, American Blue, do I sound okay? There's no because I'm doing something I don't normally do, so I just want to make sure there's no feedback on the other channels. Yeah, hey Shannon. Guy 210 built on all charges. He's guilty on all charges? Verdict came back for Daybell, hopefully 2 guilty verdicts. Daybell, is that the person that is that the crazy person who like hurt her 2 kids or something? Like the couple that. Hey Hannah, thanks for the gift. Yeah, those people were sick. That was a really sick story. I don't know how people can hurt their children. Like it doesn't compute with me. Like I love my kids more than anything. Like I don't know. I'm just not built like that. I don't hurting kids and stuff just isn't in my not in my DNA, thank God. Alright, I gotta find a better place for this. Maybe we can surf Twitter and see. Because you know Twitter, as soon as it comes out, it's gonna be everywhere. Alright, let's go to Explore. It should be trending. Let's see if it's trending. Yeah, verdict. Verdict is trending. So so Trump just put out. My civil rights have been totally violated with this highly political, unconstitutional election interfering witch hunt. All in caps, by the way. It says our failing nation is being laughed at all over the world. No, you're being laughed at. We will be laughed at if we don't find this dude guilty. I can tell you that. So let me, for you guys all watching on my other, yeah, sorry guys on TikTok. I really wish, I got to figure out how to broadcast what I do on my other platforms to here because it's so much better. I have visual aids, stuff like that. So if you want to, you can head over to my YouTube, Twitter, and see how I'm broadcasting on the other ones, because I actually can put stuff up on the screen that way. Verdict reached. That's MSNBC.
Ever jury to sit and render a judgment in the first ever criminal trial of an American ex-president has done its civic duty. They have done what they were asked to do.
Hey, American Blue,
they
you're
have
still in there. Does
served.
it
They
sound
listened
okay?
to 22 witnesses. They asked for some very specific chunks of testimony read back to them. They asked for the instructions read back to them, and they have rendered a verdict on whether or not Donald Trump is guilty on these 34 criminal counts. All right, another historic day in these United States of America, the first ever jury to sit and render a judgment.
Ari, Andrew, what is happening?
Verdict reached 4:56 p.m.
Sam, go ahead. No, I've just got a little bit of information. We've got a team of New York Times reporters in the courtroom, and I just first of all want to let viewers know that Donald Trump was in the courtroom when this news came in, because we were expecting initially that they may let the jury go.
Right.
So he is now still in the
Y'all can hear
courtroom.
that on
Apparently, he
TikTok, too?
largely has his eyes closed, as he has through most of the proceedings, and Eric Trump is seated behind him. And I think there's plans after
Getting a
the
little
verdict
echo?
is announced
Okay.
for him to speak outside the courtroom right
shoot.
now.
Okay,
So that will happen
Vaughn's
is
running that down as well. Ari, you tell me what we're going to see. What are we going to see when a verdict comes in? You've got it on.
Yeah, well,
screen. Are
we're
we gonna
tracking
see
it
the
internally.
form?
We have people in the courtroom and in the overflow room, and I think it's not an exaggeration to say the eyes of the nation and the world are
Yeah.
on this New York courtroom right now.
Right.
I'll remind folks that we don't get access to cameras in public, but the overflow room does have cameras.
They've
and
got eyes on the judge.
Exactly. So they have eyes on the judge. The jury their identities are anonymous, but we see them. And if you're in the courtroom, you definitely see them. So this jury is going to file in. Having filled out the form, we would expect the foreperson to read it off. And so we will get in time, and it might be halting. It might be 1, 2, a pause,
count
a
one,
third,
right.
a fourth. It's going to take time. It's going to take as long as it takes. But they're going to read out what the foreperson reflects is the unanimous decision of the jury on those counts. Then quite
thank you.
frequently,
Okay,
we would
cool.
see a judge after that poll to make sure that everyone
turned the game
agrees,
down a little too,
which
so
again is
hopefully
done for the record. It's not that we expect anything to depart from that,
what
but
do you
no
guys
one
think?
has spoken for on a
I got
matter
so
of
many of you
this
watching right now.
significance
I'm just wondering
with
what-
regard to that. And
what
so
your,
what that would sound like is us reading
if you
out
get
in
a
real
guilty
time, and
verdict,
we're
y'all
tracking it with our team,
watch each other's
the
backs
same
out
team of
there.
folks you've been talking to on air.
Yeah,
and
man.
we work with a lot of people as a team
49er guy,
effort
I think
to
that's really
track
good.
each
Really
count
good
as
point.
it comes in. And again, as a guide,
not hopeful,
there are cases
guilty,
Andrew and I can discuss that are more
terrified. I'm
complicated, where you have,
terrified,
for example, a
Guilty
bunch of
based on what
misdemeanors
the
and a bunch
jury
of
has to
felonies,
hear
and you're
again.
really tracking.
Yeah,
This
and
is
the
more
fact
of an
that
all-in-one.
it really was kind of quick.
So as I said, in
You know,
fairness to the
especially
defendant,
considering
if it's an
the
acquittal
levity of
across
this-
the
of
board,
this
that's a big
case
deal.
and the precedent
If it's a
that's,
conviction
great.
on some
Like they really
counts,
did.
then he would have been, we're not reporting this
gets
right now,
on my
but
nerves.
if
Me
you
too,
get
Kimmy.
acquittal, that's acquittal, and if you get a conviction,
Hazy says
then
not
you have
guilty.
a felony conviction on one or
Okay.
more counts.
I just want to warn people
And because
that
he's a lifetime criminal, I mean, that's
because
my thing. I don't know
the
how
tea
you
leaf
can,
reading is that this could
look at
easily
this
be
dude's
what's called a
history and-
mixed
and
verdict,
think
where
that
there's
he's
some
not,
acquittals and some
you know,
guilty.
a
That's
prolific
Let me just put a pin in it. The
criminal.
court is in session.
I'm worried they will
Rashawn
be
is
riding.
on the bench.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say,
I like
they're
49er
easily
guys said, and I'll,
the
you know, I'll
counts that
say it
they
on
could
all my
acquit on
platforms. Be
could
safe
be
out
the
there,
first
everybody.
one.
You
So
know, you
people
guys
need
know I
to
sign
sort of
everything off
be
by
patient.
Take a breath and listen.
Exactly.
Safe out
So the
there.
jury is right now
And I say that
entering
for
the
both
courthouse.
sides. This
Von
isn't
Hilliard, do we
worth-
know anything else?
This is not worth destroying property. This is not worth anybody's
We know that
life
Donald
today,
Trump
tomorrow,
and Todd Blanche, they know
this
that they are on
weekend.
camera. Todd Blanche has been covering up his mouth here
you know,
as
it's
he has
just not
been
worth it,
talking
y'all.
to
So
his
not
client,
over
the
this dude.
defendant, Donald
Let's,
Trump. Judge Merchan is back
either
in.
way.
Court is officially in session.
Okay,
The jury
court's
is now
officially back.
officially entering the courtroom.
We
The
are,
jury's entering
as
the
Ari
courtroom.
Melber
Here we
just
go,
said,
guys.
the eyes is not an
Here we go.
overstatement to say the eyes of the world. We've had an opportunity
I'm
to
sitting
interview
in a
some of the
parking lot
foreign
in the middle of a
journalists
very
over the last
redneck
5
red bar.
weeks. Suzanne Craig, I think all
That's
of my
actually kinda
colleagues have
cool,
made their
though.
way down
jury
to
comes
this
back, it's usually
line
guilty. Yeah.
to stand, to
Jury
have the
is in
privilege
for
to be
30
inside,
seconds
to
already.
hear
Thanks,
rule
David.
of law in action. The jury has done its part. They asked
Ooh,
for
I'm sorry,
4
jury.
specific pieces of testimony read back to
I live in
them.
a
They
deep
wanted some
red
clarification
area
on the
of the state.
instructions
I'm
given given to
there.
them by Judge Juan Merchan.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie,
They have
I
rendered a
literally,
verdict.
like,
they
I'm-
asked for 30 extra
I-
minutes to
what's
fill
the
out their
feeling?
form.
I'm
As
having
Andrew
anxiety.
Weissman continues
I'm
to.
not gonna lie,
Oh, Andrew
I'm having
Weissman, tell me
anxiety.
about your paper.
I
You've
didn't
got
anticipate
34
that.
lines there. And you're going to do this. I can't even get into my computer, so I'm very happy to see you with your paper and you with your laptop. Rachel Maddow has joined the set. I'm going to make sure you're hooked up. You wired in. You ready to go?
I'm wired in. I'm not a computer
Rachel's like I
either.
was.
I've
She's
got a
like
lot of
trying to
thoughts.
rush
Okay.
back. I didn't have
Well,
a
I
mic
mean,
on.
this is an important moment, and we don't know yet, and we're about
This really
to know.
is.
But I just think
Like, no
for
kidding,
those of us who
guys.
have had the privilege of covering
Yeah, I might
this
need a gummy
story,
after this, too, depending on
this
which way it
moment
goes.
before the verdict gets here is important.
Yes,
just take
everyone
a breath,
be
right?
safe. Seriously, this isn't worth-
we are
this
a
is not
democracy.
worth
This is a government of by
anybody
and for
losing
the
their
people,
life,
and
their
that
house,
means
their business,
that
their
everybody is
property.
subject to the rule of law, and we
Not
are
over
about to
this
see
guy,
that
guys.
in
It's just
action.
not worth
Whatever
it.
these jurors decided, they are
And I
peers
say
of
that
Donald
either
Trump
way.
as citizens.
Guilty, not guilty.
And they have
It's not worth
followed
it.
an impeccable
just not worth
process. And if there's anything that isn't impeccable about this process, he will have full access as a defendant to the appeals process. And this is a
That's
moment
true.
of sort of democratic reset, small d democratic reset for us as a country.
Sad that it could end up
Accountability
in
is
the Supreme
happening here
Court. We
because
see
we
how
are a
they might
democracy and because the rule of law applies to
And,
all of us. And as a defendant, he
Alito
has
has already said he
benefited
won't
from the
recuse himself,
protections
so-
that all defendants have. And this is a sober thing. Some people will
Vitamin
dance in the
D
streets
cake
no
on
matter
me.
what this ruling
Yeah.
is on one side or
Hey,
the
thanks
other.
for the follow,
Those of
Deborah.
us in the press covering this will not,
Saying I'm
no
a
matter
wreck.
what
I
it
know.
is.
A lot of people are wrecked right now.
We have the responsibility to cover this fairly, but I think we also have the responsibility
anybody
as
that's been
citizens to
paying
just
attention-
realize the gravity of this moment.
I think it's important
Yeah, like Rachel said, I think
to
anybody who
nod
pays
to
attention
what
realizes
Judge Juan
how
Merchan
important
has
this is
accomplished. Again,
what this
regardless
means
of
for our
what
country
the verdict the
at the moment.
jury landed on, what Judge Juan
Thanks for the
Merchan
rose,
was
Hannah.
able to do
Thank you
is
for
in
the
the
gifts,
face
everybody.
of
Love y'all.
threats. I mean, the story we were going
Aaron,
to cover before we learned
what's
that the
up?
jury had sent a note around
What's up,
420
Zola?
saying they'd reached a
So,
verdict was a
for
story
anybody that's
about
just
death
tuning
threats
in,
he is
got about
receiving.
1,000 with me
Before
on
day one of testimony,
YouTube
his
and Twitter.
daughter was
And we got
targeted.
about
Every day, Trump had
100 here on
surrogates there in
TikTok.
red ties,
So,
trying
the
to
jury's come
threaten
back.
what you're
They're
describing,
already
the
in the
rule of law.
courtroom.
And
Judge is
I
back.
think it should not
So
be
they should literally be reading the verdict here any
minimized
minute.
that this trial was fair, that Judge
Eileen Cannon needs
Merchan
to face
sometimes
the music, too,
objected
for the
on the
police
part
corruption.
of the
Yeah.
defense,
Absolutely.
particularly during
She
Stormy
definitely
Daniels'
needs to be looked into.
testimony, and then sustained his
I
own
can't
objections,
tell if
however
you're
that
right or
works,
left-leaning.
that
That's
were
the
made by
important
the
thing,
defense.
Michael. I think
But to Rachel's point about
at this
fairness,
minute,
that was clearly
I don't think it should be about left or right. I think it should be about right and
the
wrong.
ethos that this judge brought
But just
to
to
this
answer your question, I'm
courtroom.
definitely a liberal.
Brought that ethos and managed
I think right
what
now
is an
it's-
unusual
this is
defendant,
about
legally
America. This
unusual
isn't about
because we've never
Democrats. This isn't
had
about
a former
Republicans.
president
This
be
is
in a
about
situation
America.
where there was enough evidence
And,
to indict and try them.
My personal opinion, this
Programmatically
is
or
one of those times- this
stylistically
is like a
unusual
9/11
because
level
he did
moment.
violate the
You know,
gag
I
order.
remember how
He
how
was
America came
held
together
in contempt,
after we
and the
were
judge had to
attacked
decide
in
how to manage all
2001.
that, and did it to play for, I think,
always
time
been
rather than conflict.
discouraging and upsetting to
Everyone
me
is
that-
poking me. What do we got? What do we got? Oh, the alternate jurors have entered. They've taken their seat in the
Hang
front
on.
row of the gallery. That's from Jonah Bromwich, a reporter on this story for the New York Times. Sue Craig, what are you hearing?
It's just about to happen. It's incredible. And I was also
Just about
just
to
thinking
happen,
about
guys.
the judge and how fair he has been, but how tough he has been on Donald Trump directly with issues about the gag order and how firm he has been.
I don't wanna talk
I
when
think
they're-
it really
they're
did
reading
shut a
it.
lot down
You're
at
shaking?
the end. It
Yeah,
didn't
I
shut
have-
everything
I
down.
have anxiety.
But I just had a lot of respect sitting in the courtroom watching
gonna
that
throw up.
judge
Yeah, don't
day
throw
in
up.
and day out, just how even he was.
Well, and we
if
should
he
say what
found
he
not guilty,
policed
then go
against,
throw
what he
up.
guarded against were
And remember, if he's
histrionics.
not found
His
guilty on all
most
30-something
intense
counts,
display of
that's okay too,
emotion
guys.
was when
Like, we
Donald
don't need
Trump's
every single
attorney said
count.
you can't send Donald Trump to prison based on Michael Cohen. He
And again,
cleared out
because
the
I'm
I mean,
getting more and
he
more
really
people in my
tried to
rooms here,
preserve
guys, be safe today.
the letter
No
of
matter
the
what the
law,
verdict
the
is,
sanctity
it's
of the
not-
law,
it's not
and
worth civil
and
unrest,
to
it's not
minimize
worth
melodrama.
And
anybody
the
losing a
antics
life,
when
it's not
when
worth
when the
losing
one
business,
witness that they
house.
did call came up, Costello, and was
So,
giving him
no
side
matter what the
Side
verdict
eye.
is today, guys, let's just stay safe.
sighing, and
Yeah.
he was
And
like
smart.
having
Staring me down.
None
real
of
quick.
that.
So let me just bring our
And also
viewers. I'll
remember,
tell you everything I
guilty,
know.
not guilty,
So
he
for
can
our
still appeal
colleagues
it
who
too.
are sitting in the
So,
overflow room, there's
you
a
know.
screen, and on that screen, that's where they see an image of Judge Merchan and the jury, as Ari saying, and Donald Trump and his attorneys and the prosecutors. That screen is still in standby mode, which means we've got a verdict. Ari Melber.
I've got a
We are
verdict.
looking at count
5
one,
guilty.
Guilty.
6
Count
guilty.
2, guilty. guilty. Count
7
3,
guilty.
guilty. Count 4,
8 guilty.
guilty. Count 5,
9 guilty.
guilty. Those are the first 5 counts.
10
coming out
guilty.
of This jury finding
11
Donald J.
guilty!
Trump guilty on the first 5 felony
12
counts.
guilty!
Reading the rest as we are getting it from
13
our
guilty!
court reporters.
Starting with count 6.
Count 6.
14 guilty!
Count 7.
15 guilty!
Count 8. Guilty. And you'll see on the screen
16
in the track
guilty.
ahead. Count 9. Guilty. Count 10.
17 guilty!
Count 11. Guilty. Count 12.
18 guilty.
Guilty. Count 13.
19 guilty!
Count 14.
This
Guilty.
motherfucker's
Count 16.
guilty!
Guilty. Count 17. Guilty. Count 18.
Prison!
Guilty. Count 19.
Prison.
Guilty. Count 20.
Prison!
Guilty. Count 21. Guilty. Count 22.
And
Guilty.
y'all are gonna
Count
vote for this guy?
23.
All you
Guilty.
people
Count
watching,
24.
all you MAGA people that are
Guilty.
losing their
Count
minds, right?
25.
26
Guilty. Count 26.
27 guilty. Y'all gonna
Count
vote
27. We're seeing that.
29
on the screen.
guilty.
Guilty. Count
for this? They're
28.
gonna find him guilty on every
Guilty.
single one.
Those are the first 28 felony counts
31
here,
guilty.
as read by the jury. Count 29 guilty.
32.
Count 30 guilty. Count 31
33.
Guilty. Count
Fucking
32,
give them all 34.
guilty. Count 33 and 34 guilty. That is Donald J. Trump, defendant in New York versus Donald Trump, found guilty on all 34 felony counts. That is the verdict here in this case.
Rachel?
Listen, it's a unanimous jury
Good day for
verdict,
America.
unanimous on all counts. This is a definitive and, this is an irreducible verdict. He can appeal. I'm sure he will appeal. But this is everything
Knock
the
my lights
prosecution
down.
asked for from a jury that, by all accounts, took this thing very, very seriously. We counted the deliberation hours down here. The
Oh
test
my
here for
God.
us as a country
Guilty on
is not
every
about what
single
happens on appeal
count.
and is not about what happens in sentencing. The test for us now as a country is whether or not this former president and his allies will have succeeded in trying to undermine the rule of law so that people reject this as a legitimate function of the rule of law in our country.
Yep.
They have tried to delegitimize this judge. They have tried to delegitimize this court. They have tried to delegitimize
Ooh,
these
I needed
proceedings.
that.
They've even tried to delegitimize the laws that he was charged under. Those efforts
How you guys
are
feeling
the
now?
test that we now have as a country. The people involved in bringing this case have been threatened,
How we feeling
and
now?
intimidated, and had everything brought to bear on against them in a way that was designed to delegitimize
this is
this
great.
process in the eyes of the American people.
I didn't
It is
think you'd
now
be
in the
guilty on
hands
all.
of the
I thought
American
maybe
people to
9.
decide if we will accept
You know, I would have been
those
happy
efforts
with
or whether we
5.
will stand by the rule of law and
But
recognize
all
this as a
34?
fair
Well,
proceeding.
a wise woman said
That's
a
a
few
strong-
nights ago,
that's a strong
2
message.
Mondays ago, that the rule
That's a
of
strong
law
message.
is mortal.
The fact that it
It
came
needs
back
to
so
be
quick, the
protected.
fact that it
It
was
isn't
guilty
an
on all
abstract
counts.
thing. And today, the
That's-
people
that's a message
have
of
names
this
that
dude
we've
is
all come to
guilty.
know.
It's not a
Their
question.
name Joshua
It
Steinglass.
wasn't a
Their
hung
name Alan
jury.
Bragg.
It
Their
wasn't
name's
anything like that. It was
Yeah.
34 guilty
And there
counts in
are
a matter
other
of
cases
24
that are
hours.
pending against
So you
Donald
can call
Trump
it
as a
whatever you
criminal
want.
defendant. The difference is that we
How is
now
he gonna be
know
able to
as a
run?
country what it is
That's
to
a good
put a
question.
former
Here's the
president
answer,
on
because
trial
anybody running
and to
for
see
office
that
doesn't
trial
need to pass any
to
kind of
fruition.
background check or
That
security
is something
clearance
that was
check
hypothetical
to
before we ever
obtain
had this
office.
guy as a former
Just getting
president.
voted in is
But now
enough.
we have lived through
So
it, and
that's
we
why
know
this
that
was so dangerous,
the court
because if he
process
got voted in, he
can
could
work.
literally just
A
pardon
defendant
himself
who
and
is a
every single
former
person,
president can
you
be
know, that had
tried as a
anything to do
normal
with him.
defendant.
So,
Again,
you know,
the
all the
appeals
elected
process will go
officials
on,
that
the
showed up to the
sentencing
court
process
case to
will
try to
go on,
intimidate the
and those
jurors
will
and
all
stuff,
be pressure points. But
yeah,
the legal
he could-
system
he
in this
could
country
literally go in
treats
and pardon
any
all of
former
them.
president
So
as
we
any
do need to
citizen.
change that.
We've
Like,
seen
I
that
had to
today,
go
and this
through-
jury
I had to
deserves
go
to be
through a
thanked for their
far
efforts
stricter
and to be
security clearance check to
protected,
work on fighter
to be
jets for the
protected
military.
from the
And if you're
kinds of
running the
attacks
entire
and
country,
intimidation and
you know, you're the
recrimination
figurehead for the
that the
entire
president and his
country, you
allies
should
have
pass
tried to
the
bring
same
down in this
background check that
process.
I
Let me
did.
just tell our viewers. Let me just tell folks
Sure.
what's happened.
Can't vote if
what,
you're a
what
felon, but you
Ari
can be
said,
president.
or Andrew said, what happened has happened.
that again,
Judge
bro.
Merchan went
People
juror
need
to
to hear
juror
that
to
one.
juror. They all concurred with the verdict that Donald Trump is guilty on all 34 criminal counts, 34
I need a drink or
felonies.
something.
And they have been thanked for their service. Ari.
Yeah.
Yeah, what you just reported and what Rachel
Yep.
was reminding
Donald
us
Trump
is actually
is officially a convicted
existing
felon.
in a microcosm within the trial because the jury is being polled, a jury of the peers of the defendant, as is his right. So that's legally something where the defense counsel is asked, do you want to make sure? They almost always, virtually always say yes. And so we're told, and we're looking at our notes here, pardon me for looking down, but our reporters are seeing the defendant, Donald
really
Trump, is
wanna
looking
cuss.
at the jury, is watching
But in a
them
good
as they
way.
are individually
Yeah,
polled.
I know.
But this is, as
Good.
Rachel reminded us, someone who has been held in contempt for
'Cause this is
what
really
he has
gonna
said
make
and done against other people
everybody
and
that
witnesses in the
supports him and
system.
says they're
So
gonna
I would
vote for
call
him,
that a fairly
this makes
intense
them look
moment.
horrible.
But
Like,
good
you're
for the
literally
jury, good
saying
for the
not
system
only
to go
has he
right
been
through it.
found
Our
guilty
reporter's
on
also
all
telling
these in a
us
criminal
that
court, but
while
he's found
Trump has really
liable
shown
of
emotion
sexual
or
abuse in a
changed his
civil
quote
court.
demeanor
So, like,
throughout the trial right
all
now.
of the
He's
things
only
that they're
looking
willing
down.
to disregard
Eric Trump,
and then sit there and
reportedly
say,
looking
but Joe
upset.
Biden, you know,
And
it
that's
doesn't
the
matter
scene
that
in
I've
the
got the
room as
letter
they
from
go
Ashley
through it.
Biden.
Sure,
calling
when you say
diary,
poll the
know,
jury, what you
and
mean
what
is
they did with the
individually,
BS.
jurors by
You know,
number
oh,
will
what
be
about Hunter
asked,
Biden's
is this your
laptop?
verdict?
Oh, the
And
one
then
that
they
was
each have
left
to
at
answer
a computer
orally. They have to
store for
say out
months and
loud,
then
yes.
went through,
Yes, and that's the
three different
transparency.
people
It's gotta be a scary
whatever made
moment
it
for
to
those
a law
individual
enforcement
jurors.
Right, as they're being stared down,
Yeah.
but
You
it's
guys
the
would dismiss that
transparency in our
instantly if it was
system. You
Donald
said
Trump
something
and
so
Eric Judy.
important. The system
But yeah,
worked.
let's
We discussed
keep talking
earlier
about
when
Joe
we were
Biden.
awaiting this.
So just
that
in
it
case you
works
haven't figured out
not
yet,
because of the
there's
result,
zero-
but because of
there's
the
zero
process.
comparison
And that if it
between
were an
Donald Trump
acquittal, we
and
would be
Joe
discussing that the system went forward. This
Each
is
count
that
carries a
system, and the
maximum
judge and the bailiffs and
punishment
others
of
are
4
there to
years in
protect the
prison.
people
So what's 4
and
times
protect them in a
34?
physical sense as needed. But what we are
120
hearing
years at
is that
least?
this jury heard the
I wanna
evidence,
know.
asked these questions. We know some of what was
I mean,
on
they
their
could always
minds. We
make
haven't
them
heard from
serve
them other than the
concurrently,
verdict, and
so-
now are confirming that this is their unanimous verdict. And so it's a
4
matter of transparency
times
that everyone sees
34.
each of them
So
confirm
he's facing
what was
136 years,
officialized
potentially.
today, that Donald Trump
But
is
like I said, they could always
guilty,
just
that
say,
all
you know,
12 jurors unanimously reached
4
that
years to
decision
run concurrently.
through their reasoning with each other on all 34 counts.
Fox News is melting
just to
down.
Rachel's point,
let's
there's
go
something
tune to Fox News and see
in
how
every
that's going.
trial when the jury is polled that is sort of magical and
live.
fundamental to this country.
let's see what the other
where
side's
the
saying,
jurors,
shall we?
each one stands up and
Do we
is
even have Fox News?
counts as a citizen, and it,
hurt now in the public opinion where he's got to get independent voters, where he's got to get people who are
Look
not
at her.
necessarily
She
part of
is
his
so
base.
mad. She's
now that he's
like,
got this conviction, which
You should
may
be
or may
mad
not one day be
because
overturned.
you support
You know,
horrible person.
Shannon, I don't have the answer to that question. I want to believe
never had
that
the answer,
Americans
woman.
believe in justice, and I think that in their gut, they realize that there is something that is very wrong here. We have gone over a cliff in America. This
Guilty on all
verdict
counts,
is a
baby.
verdict
Guilty
of
on all
someone who was
counts.
forced to fight a 1,000-pound gorilla
So yeah, if you're just tuning
with
in,
both
'cause
hands
I see
tied
I've got
behind his
a lot
back.
more people here.
This was a
man, everybody's
defendant
texting me, too.
for whom crimes were created, against whom a judge
Hey, Chris,
was
if you're
picked,
watching, dude, I just got your text.
that out of the ordinary, not from the drum, but a judge who was
Yeah, so if you're just
handpicked
tuning in,
for this defendant,
Donald Trump has
who
been found
denied him
guilty
the
on all
ability
34
to
counts.
fight the way he needed
He's
to fight,
foreseeing,
who brought
facing
in
like
crimes that we've never heard of in
100
New York
years.
before, where
I gotta pull it up
they
here.
had dead misdemeanors that they resurrected
Actually
into
wanna keep
felonies
that
based
on.
upon
that little,
non-unanimous
nugget of
verdicts
information.
of crimes that are federal, over which no state court or no state judge or prosecutor has jurisdiction. And in the end, with all the smoke and mirrors and 34 counts and a hooker and a guy, according to a federal judge, is a serial perjurer, we have convicted a former president of the United States of America. We've gone over a cliff. The question is to whether or not
Oh, I love
America
that she's
will
losing her
react to
mind.
this, whether his numbers will go up or down, I don't know. But I do know what I know. And what I know is that this case is riddled with errors. It is reversible. It will not get through to the appellate division in the First Department in New York.
Bullshit, it
or
won't.
certainly the Court of Appeals before the next year. And people say, should it go to the Supreme Court? No, it can't go to the Supreme Court unless they exhaust all of the state court appeals.
That brings up a really good
32
thing.
years in this system.
Anybody
and I
that's
am
willing to
totally
vote for Donald
disillusioned.
Trump
You
without
had a
all of
judge
these
and
court
you had a
cases,
DA
you know,
who
run
literally
their course.
campaigned
Like, if you're
on
willing to vote for
making
this dude
sure
before he
that
appeals this, you're-
president would be indicted.
Yeah,
We've
I
got
don't
an
e- I can't
attorney
even think of
general
any
who
names
did
to
the
call you
same
that
thing.
won't get me booted
This is a
offline.
new era in America, and I think it goes against the ilk of who we are as Americans and our faith
Dude, you're
in the
supporting a
criminal justice
domestic
system.
terrorist, a libel rapist. Like,
So if you're just joining us, 34 counts, 34 in that indictment against President Trump. Today, the jury comes back unanimously convicting him guilty on all 34 counts. They were all similar in that they had to do with falsification of business records. That was what would have been a misdemeanor. That's where the statute of limitations would have run.
man. It's
And there was
all
another
rigged
underlying
for a
crime,
guy. It's
which we didn't
wonderful.
find out about
34
what that was
counts.
going to be
Guilty on
essentially
all.
until the closing arguments
They're
and
going
the
to vote
jury
for him anyway.
instructions
Oh, I
from
know
the
they're gonna
judge
vote for him
yesterday.
anyway.
He gave
They're
them
crazy.
choices
Like,
Trey, we've
it's
talked
literally
about this
cult.
many times, that they
I
had
mean,
choices.
like I
Will
said,
we
they
ever
come at
know
people like me and they're
what
like, "Why
choice
aren't
the
you
jury
kind?
made
Why
with
won't you engage in
linking
good
this
faith
to an
conversations?"
underlying
'Cause there
crime?
is no good
There are only
faith
two ways
conversations
you'll
to have
know
with you
that.
people.
Maybe possibly three.
Like, you don't have good faith
On
conversations.
appeal,
You know, you
arguably,
play
the
gotcha
government could be
moments,
forced
and no matter how
to
many times I show
explain
you
what
court
that
documents, I
second
bring
crime was.
receipts,
Maybe it's
you know,
in the
it doesn't matter
special
what
verdict
evidence I
form, and
show
we
these
haven't
people.
seen
They're
it.
like,
It certainly
no,
wasn't
you know,
read
Donald
to the
Trump's the best
jury.
thing
It wasn't
since sliced bread.
polled.
You
The
know how
jury
many
was just
screenshots I took
polled,
of
which
people
means
praying
each
for this
individual
guy?
juror was asked,
All
is
the
this your
big
verdict?
right-wing
And still
accounts
your
like,
verdict.
"Oh, we're praying
We
for
don't know what
Donald
that
Trump." It's like,
secondary
you all wonder why we
crime
don't take
was.
your religion
Or
seriously.
a member of the
You all
jury
wonder
could
why
talk.
you get spit in
They're
the
not
face
required
so
to.
many
They'll be
times.
told that they don't
Because
have
you
to.
use your
But
religion to
sometimes
lift up
members
people
of the
like
jury
Donald
will
freaking Trump.
talk,
That's
and they'll
why.
say
You
this
wonder why people are
was
fleeing
that
the
extra
fleeing the
crime that
church
we
the way that
found.
they are. That's
What do you
why.
think, Andy?
Like,
The judge there talks
because
about
you guys
how
are sitting
people are
there
going to react to
praying
this
to
in
your
different
God
ways.
for somebody like Donald Trump,
We've got
and
a
you're
tweet
praying
out
for the
now
outcome
from
of
Donald
court
Trump Jr. He
cases.
says, guilty on all
Like-
counts, the Democrats have succeeded in
Like,
their
there's something
years-long
wrong with
attempts to
y'all.
turn America into a third world blank. November 5th is our last chance
And
to
here's
save
the other
it.
thing,
So,
though. But if you're
tough
praying-
news for
if
the
you're
former
praying
president legally,
for
but
Donald
politically,
Trump to
does he
be
get a
found
boost from this on the
guilty?
campaign trail saying, okay,
That
they
better not
did what
be
I told
the
you they
same
were going to try to do
Nathan
to
Davis
me.
from Arizona.
Now you have to elect me in order to head all of the rest of this off that I predict will come.
Yeah, but if you're still willing to vote for this guy,
Hard
it says
for
a
us to
heck of a lot
gauge
more
as
about
people
you
who
than it
were
does
very
liberal.
involved in politics, because I think at this point in the campaign, the people you're trying to reach are the people who aren't all that taken in with politics. For most of the people who are in our world and who follow this closely, I think they're pretty stuck in their positions. And what I've always wondered, and I'm not the political guy, we got a former member of Congress with us here, but I thought that the internal polling of the Democrats has to tell them, it would seem to me, that being able to call Trump a convicted felon in the run-up to the election is worth X number of points in the battleground states. So even if it fires up his base, and it should, and even if Janine, I think, is quite right that this is going to change American prosecution and the American justice system for the worse, because
No, it's not. We held
the flag
freaking
of
criminal
politicized
accountable,
prosecution
you
has been
sick
planted
people.
here in a way that
What
it's
is
never
wrong
been
with these
planted
people?
before. But as
Oh,
it plays
they
politically,
didn't get it right.
I think the
Of course you
question
didn't
is,
say that.
how much is it worth to have that talking point for them in the run-up to the election?
Yeah, and Judge Janine, we think about that in also the context of the fact that if they're, as we've talked about, going to now start referring to former President Trump as convicted felon Donald Trump, and whether they're going to use that language, that we also know Hunter Biden is facing 2 federal trials, which we can talk about as well.
Oh, yeah,
One of
Hunter
them
Biden.
starting
Let's
on
talk about
Monday.
Hunter Biden
And
now.
the fact that I don't think the Trump campaign is going to pull any punches if Hunter Biden winds up convicted of something. It does look to many people across the spectrum here in America that a lot of our political
Oh, of course,
fighting
Fox
has
News
turned
brought
to
up
legal
Hunter Biden.
warfare as well.
You know, it's interesting,
Hunter Biden's
Shannon.
not
We've
guilty
been
of
calling
anything.
it
Joe Biden's not
lawfare.
guilty of
I think
anything, but you know who
lawfare
is
is
guilty of a
far
lot of
too
shit?
soft. It's far too
Donald
benign.
Trump.
This is warfare. This is the taking
Libel,
down of
sexual
someone,
abuse, guilty on 34
not just
criminal
politically,
counts,
but legally, and looking to take away
$480 million
their civil
for
liberties.
fraud in New York
and you
City.
know, as a
Like,
prosecutor
anybody
and a
willing to vote
judge,
for
my
this guy
job
is
was to
insane.
make sure
And if you
that the
think this
guilty
guy
were
is better,
convicted,
oh,
and to
the
make
look
sure
on his
that their
face. Yeah, you're
people's
guilty.
civil
You're
liberties
guilty.
weren't
Are you
taken
going to
away.
say anything
I
now?
understand the
Oh, let's
president's
hear.
coming out.
Okay. Yeah, Judge, if you'll hold on just a second. We see President Trump now. He is walking out. Let's listen.
Trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt. There's a rigged trial, a disgrace. They wouldn't give us a venue change. We were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area. This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here.
Yeah, you're guilty, bitch.
You have a Soros-backed DA, and the whole thing. We didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man.
The jury said different, bitch.
And it's okay. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our
No,
Constitution.
you're not. You're fighting for yourself.
Our whole country is being rigged right now.
No, it's
this
not.
was
Just
done
you,
by
bitch.
the Biden administration.
Had nothing
in
to
order
do with this.
wound or hurt an opponent, a political opponent.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with
And
it,
I think
you
it's
criminal
just a disgrace. And we'll keep fighting.
You're
We'll
a
fight till
disgrace.
the end and we'll win.
Rapist,
because our country's
criminal,
gone to hell.
fraud.
We don't have the same country anymore. We have a divided mess.
Yeah, you're the
We're a
divided mess,
nation in
bitch. Go
decline,
away.
serious decline. Millions and millions of people pouring into our country
You
right
lost
now.
as an incumbent. Do you know how
From
bad that is
prisons and
statistically?
from mental institutions,
You
terrorists.
should be in a mental
And
institution.
they're taking over our country. We have a country that's in big trouble. But this was a rigged
we're about to
decision
get rid
right
of the
from day
trouble.
one with a conflicted judge who should have never been allowed to try this case. Never. And we will fight for our Constitution. This is
You're
long
fighting for
Thank
yourself,
very
you
much.
fat fuck. How is the... I love that he looked like somebody kicked him in the dick. He really did.
Once again, on this historic day, former President Donald Trump has just
I hope
been
he
found
cries.
guilty on all
I hope he
34
fucking
felony
cries.
counts of
Although I
falsifying
think
business
somebody with
records in
his-
New York.
with
Class E
his,
felonies are punishable by up to 4 years in prison, but legal
I don't
experts
think,
say
what
since
is
Trump
it,
is 77 and has no
narcissistic
criminal record,
psych-
jail time
so-
is very
sociopath?
unlikely.
I think he is
The
sociopath.
sentencing will be up to the judge at a
capable of
hearing
that.
on July 11th. Trump has denied all wrongdoing, and he has vowed to appeal.
Oh,
Under
Lord.
U.S. law, the
Whew.
conviction does not mean
What
he's
a
barred
day.
from running for or
What a
serving
day.
as president. This is one of 4 criminal cases brought against Mr.
He
Trump.
doesn't know how to
The
cry.
other
Nobody in
cases
his family
involve
knows how to
allegations
cry.
of election
Yeah.
tampering,
I know they were
mishandling
never
of classified
allowed to
documents, and involvement
He is selling
in the
orange
Capitol
jumpsuits.
riot.
Please tell
It is
me that's true,
unlikely
Martin.
Any of those
Please tell me
cases
he's
will
really
reach the
selling
trial
orange
stage
jumpsuits.
before the November election.
Somebody needs
Reporting
to
from
check on
Washington,
Elder
I'm Caroline
Millennial.
Shively. For more on
He
this
won't
developing
sleep for
story,
days.
stay
Bravo.
tuned to this Fox
Can you
News
guess
station.
what he said? Hey, hey, hey,
This has been a
goodbye.
Fox News special report.
I'm crying serious happy tears. I think a lot of people are happy. I know.
With Dupixent, the
You
number
know, like I
one
said, it's not
prescribed
done.
biologic
You know,
by
you can still appeal
dermatologists
it.
and allergists.
But
They
I
can stay
don't
ahead
think
of their
I'll be
eczema.
surprised if they get the
It helps
appeals done
block a
before
key source of
November.
inflammation inside the
So,
body
you
that
know,
can
now the
cause
question is,
eczema
are people
to help heal your
are people
child's
willing
skin
to?
from within.
That's
Serious allergic
what I'm looking for. Are people willing to vote for, you know, a guy that's in the middle of an appeals process for 34 criminal counts? Are they willing to vote for a guy who, you know, was found liable of sexual abuse? Are they willing to vote for a guy who owes $480 million to New York City for fraud? You know, are they willing to vote for a guy that was found liable of rape? An accused P to the E to the D-O. You know, like, that's who they're willing to vote for. You can say whatever you want about Joe Biden. There's nothing that has come out about him that's been anything near as terrible as the court documents and things that we already know about him. So, yeah, I think it's going to be 30%. I think he'll still get, I could see him still getting 60 million votes, 50, 60 million votes. But I think, in turn, I think Biden will still be up in the, I think he'll be up in the high 70s, maybe even 80 millions. Sentencing is July 11th? Well, yeah, but he'll appeal it, so the sentence will be put on hold, right? Well, that'll be interesting. It'd still be nice to know what his sentence would be. He can't vote for himself. Felons in Florida, especially on dishonesty, can't vote. But that's the kicker too, though, John, is like the fact that there is no background check required to have any type of elected position, but especially the presidency. Like, yeah, I know, X-ray, it's freaking great. Like I said, he's twice impeached, guilty. Yeah, I love that, Mr. B. Twice impeached, guilty of sexual assault, and 34 felony counts. That's MAGA right there. He can't hold public office in Florida either. He can't? But now, is it because of the felonies, though? Is there, am I wrong? Is there a thing that says you can't run for president as a felon? I didn't think there was let's look it up. Can a felon run for president? I could have been wrong. Can a felon run for president? It's happened before. Wow. Can a convicted felon... Nope, I don't want that. Can a convicted felon run for president? It's happened before. The U.S. Constitution does not explicitly prohibit a presidential candidate from running for office while under indictment or even while serving time after having been convicted. The question is as timely as ever as former Donald Trump, the presumptive Republican nominee. Can a presidential candidate run for office while they sit behind bars? The answer is simply yes. A convicted or imprisoned felon can not only campaign for president and other federal offices, but also be elected. Can I get an amen that we need to change that shit? Please? Like I said, if you, the president, and me personally, I think even somebody sitting on a city council, if you're legislating for all people, then you should have to pass a background check. And it should be a background check very similar to the kind that I had to pass for a secret security clearance. They don't just look at you, they look at your family, you know, they look at everybody associated with you. Like, I'm telling you, when I sat down the first time, I was 21 years old when I got my first clearance. And when they sat me down, they said, do you know how much your father owes in credit card debt? And I looked at the lady across and I was in one of those, like, you know, SVU type rooms, you know, and this lady was interviewing me. And she's like asking me these questions. I'm like, my dad and I didn't talk about that kind of stuff. I was like, I have no idea. And at the time, I'm like, why are they asking me this? But as you know, as I got experienced and learned more, you know, later on, it's like, you know, they were making sure you're not a target, that somebody can, you know, that your family couldn't be targeted as well. Meaning somebody could go to my dad and say, we'll pay off all your credit card debt. All you have to do is get this information from your son. And that's the purpose of these secret security clearance background checks. And God forbid you get a top secret clearance. Holy crap. Like they want like a colonoscopy for that one. So it's like the fact that the president doesn't have to meet those same requirements is insane. And again, I say that for all presidents. It's not just for Donald Trump. Anybody running for office, Democrat, Republican, Independent, I don't care. You should have to pass a background check. And you should have to pass a fairly strenuous one. You know, it shouldn't just be a, have you ever been arrested? Nope. Okay, you can run. No, man, you need to do a background check. What's your debt? Do you have interactions with foreign nations? That's one of the questions they ask us. You know, and I think that's a pretty important one for the president. You know, and considering somebody that won't release his tax returns like majority of other presidents do, you know, that tells you that he's hiding stuff. And so it's just, the hens have finally come home to roost. And I don't know. I don't think he's getting out of this. You know, even in the appeals, he might be able to duck half of them, maybe. But even if he still gets, what's half of 34? 15, 16, 17. So even if he gets 17 counts, he's still going to jail. So I'm so glad I found this account today. Thanks, Matt. I hope you gave me a follow. I can't follow you while I'm live, but I'll try to go back and follow you. But yeah, if you're just tuning in and for some reason you didn't get to be with us live, Donald Trump has been found guilty on all 34 counts. The sentencing will right now is scheduled for July 11th. Of course, he does have the opportunity to appeal, so we'll see what happens with that process. But for today was a good win. Today was a good precedent set for America. It sucks that we had to set a precedent that the president of the United States is not above the law, and it doesn't matter who's running, whether it's Hillary, whether it's Donald, whether it's Biden, I don't care. They all need to be held to the same standard, and that legal precedent was set today. I hope that the appeals court, and if it does make it up there, that the Supreme Court will keep these in place. Yeah, so Donald Trump is officially a felon, and that's a good day for America. With that said, guys, I'm going to go jump off, celebrate with my wife and a few other people that I talk to on a daily basis. But I wanted to celebrate with you all first. So thank you all for hanging out. 34 guilty verdicts is beautiful. So before you all disappear, though, make sure you like my YouTube. Ian and I will be on tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, and I'm pretty sure this is going to come up. So please come check us out. As you know, Ian is awesome, and he's got new music coming out that we're going to hopefully play tomorrow for you. So please check us out. We'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks for hanging out. And whether you're celebrating or you're upset today, it's okay. But no matter what, today was a good precedent for America. So let's hang on to that. And whatever you do, make sure you get your butt out and vote. As always, much love, keep fighting, and stay safe. And hey, guys, it's not worth civil unrest, no matter who you are. It's not worth going out and getting in trouble, destroying anything today. Like, it's really not worth it, y'all. So, you know, no matter what side you're on, stay home today. Go home. You know, just stay home, be safe. All right?